Alrighty, so I'm gonna do my best to explain what the heck's going on here. So I transferred all this information on cost into Excel here, and then we also have the capacity. We have the annual fixed operating costs here. Assuming I've typed them in correctly. Yeah, and then demand down here. Yeah, it's looking good. Okay, now let's talk about Excel here. So in Excel, I have, what have I done? I've left these as the decision variables. The sums of each of these rows are right here. So this is the sum of that. That's the sum of these rows or these cells, whatever. Now, we want these to be less than or equal to the capacity, because the capacity is all they can handle. It's the max, but we don't have to fill the capacity. We don't have to use up to 12,000, up to 18,000. We don't have to use all those. We have those as a limit. Now the demand, what each place is demanding, does have to be met. So the total of each of these columns I've put right here. So this is the sum of those, this is the sum of those, etc. So what we want when we input the constraints is for this, like all these, to be equal to the demand here. Now let's talk cost. Cost is the sum product of the unit cost per the number of units. So again, it was like 32,000 for whatever they said, 32,000 for 1,000 trucks or whatever it was. So that means $32 per truck. Anyway, these are the unit costs. So these are the number of units, so you multiply them, do the sum product. Now, what I have over here, I didn't talk about this yet, sorry. So I made like an if statement. There might be easier ways to do this, but this is what came to mind. I did if there's anything in these cells here, in this row. So in other words, if the sum of those is greater than 0, then put a 1 for if that's true. If the sum of these is not greater than 0, then put a 0. And so like if you put a 1 here, if you have at least one truck going from place 1, then we're gonna have a 1 here. Now why did I do that? Because within the cost I did a second sum product, which tells us to only count the fixed costs of the places you are leaving open, right? You don't need to count fixed costs for operations or buildings or whatever that you are closing down. Does that make sense? So if you're trying to close a warehouse or whatever, a plant or whatever it is, then you don't need to count its fixed costs. So that was kind of the intent there. I don't know if that's correct. You got to do something like that is my assumption. Now here's my best go. You ready? So we're minimizing, this is a nightmare. We're minimizing B19. We're minimizing the cost there. Typing in this stuff is a nightmare sometimes. So B19 is what we're minimizing. The variables are B11 through B15, or yeah, that's right. Sorry, E15. So all of these here is what I've put here. Constraints, again, we wanted all of these to be less than or equal to the capacity. That's what I have first. And then the second one, I have all of these totals of each column have to meet the demand, so they have to be strictly equal to the demands here. And then I've just made sure that all of these outputs will be integers. Okay, so now the model type it identified when I hit diagnose. I don't know what this means. And then for the engine, I've just gone non-linear. I feel like typically you're supposed to put LP simplex, but I wasn't able to in this example. I don't know why it didn't let me, but when I ran this, it seems to produce an answer. So let's see if it does it. Okay, so let's look at the ones and zeros first. There are all ones here. So what that's entailing, what that's telling us is don't close down any of the plants. So I don't know if that's intended to be the answer. I don't think you're supposed to keep them all open, but that's what my solver is giving me. So I'm going with that. So ones for leaving all of them open, and these are the quantities you're transporting from 1 to A, from 1 to B, 1 to C, and so on. And so we've met the demands, and this is the cost that I got from doing that. So, I could have done something wrong, but this is the best attempt I have, so I hope this at least helped you learn something. Yeah, if I figure out any more, I'll let you know, I guess.